What's up YouTube? In this video we're looking at how to use Chrome DevTools protocol with Selenium. We will look at how to simulate network conditions and how to capture network traffic without using a proxy. So first thing, let's set up our initial script, and I will actually do some coding in this one. It's been a while since I programmed anything. Okay. So let's go ahead and start with defining the Chrome options. So we say options equals WebDriver Chrome options. Import WebDriver, and then in options we're gonna set the remote debug port so that we can connect DevTools to it. And I'm gonna hard code port 8000 because I know this specific port is free on my machine right now. And then I'm gonna create a driver, just the regular way, the way we create a driver, WebDriver Chrome. And I'm also going to use Chrome Driver Manager to initiate the driver here. Now, I do have a video on this. If you're not sure what this is doing, this statement here will actually install the latest Chrome driver version on my machine if I don't have one installed. Now, if I have one installed, but it's an older version versus the what's available now, it will actually also install a newer version, with exception if I have a config defined, and in that config I specify which version I want to use. Then in that case it will just use that version. But anyway, I do have a video on this. If you guys interested, do check it out. Now we want to pass the Chrome options that we defined down into this driver, and now we need to create a DevTools object. So I'm going to declare DevTools, and the library I'm going to use for this is called PyChrome. So I'm going to say PyChrome browser, and then I need to define a URL. So I'm going to be running this DevTools on my local host. So I'm going to say HTTP localhost, and I'm also going to have to specify the port, and that's going to be the same port as I have specified for the remote debugging. Basically, I'm telling PyChrome, which is the Chrome DevTools protocol, to bind to this port, which is the same port we are opening up for the debugging in Selenium. So now all I have to do is import PyChrome and learn to spell browser. And at this point, we need to bind to a tab as well. So we're going to say DevTools list tab, and we're going to bind to the very first tab because I know I'm not going to open any new tabs. Now, if you open more than one tab, you're going to have to figure out which index to get here for your tab. That's pretty easy, I think. So, okay, and then we are going to do one thing. So we're going to use Selenium. So we're going to say driver get, and we're going to go to, let's go to fox.com, and see what happens with this. Let's go ahead and run this. So network tutorial, run this. So I have a browser that popped up, and it's going to Fox. So we know that this works, so DevTools initiated, and I think they were able to bind. So we can actually check it out. We can go to localhost on port 8000, and we see there's some activity here. This is actually all the requests for Fox. Now we can also go into, let's see, we can go to, yeah, so this is probably a bad example. Let me actually switch to a different browser over here. So let's go to localhost on this one, and let's go to Fox. So down here, I can actually see what's going on this browser. And this is actually remote, and I can also control it. Let me try to. So I can actually control this browser remotely here. So I'm actually thinking of using this feature if I can figure out what this is in this URL. I'm actually thinking of using this feature in my framework so that I can actually create a link like this when I run any of my tests to allow people to actually see what's going on in the test in real time if there is a need. If you guys know what this ID is here, please do post in the comments, because this is not a session ID for the browser. I checked that it doesn't seem to be a session ID to the browser. So if you know, please do leave a comment in the comments. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. So now we need to, now let's go ahead and simulate a 3G network. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and close this browser, and let's simulate a 3G network at this point. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to say tab call method, and the method that we're going to call, if I actually go to DevTools protocol docs, and I will have this link to this docs in the description. So if I go to network down here, we have a bunch of methods and a bunch of events and then types. I'm not really sure what types are, but I will show you guys what the events are and what the methods are and how to use them. So in the methods, one of the methods is actually to simulate. Let's try to find it here. Yeah, there we go. So emulate network conditions. All right, so if we click on this guy, this is the method that we want to call. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and I'm going to paste it right here. And then if we go back to the docs over here and we look at what's required, right, we only have one optional parameter here, and this is for connection type. Everything else is actually required. So I have to copy this. Hopefully you guys can see this. I have to copy this stuff inside. I don't know why, but Control-C does not work, so I have to do this. So offline, we're going to set to false. And then latency, we're going to set to 100. And I'll tell you guys why I'm doing this. And then let's see, download throughput, we're going to set to we'll actually figure this one out together. I forgot what the number was. And then the upload throughput, we'll also figure that one out. And connection type will also set, just to be safe. So connection type, and let's take a look at what connection types it's expecting here. So for, let's go here, where is it? Yeah, so connection type, this is the values that we can set for connection type. So let's go ahead and set the cellular 3G, because that's what we're going to be simulating here. So cellular 3G, and now we need to figure out the throughput throttling here that we're going to do. So I've actually Googled what the 3G is, what they use. So they use kilobits. So 200 kilobits for 3G, but I think this is a bad 3G actually. So if you look at this Stack Overflow post, this one is saying that 750 kilobits is what regular 3G is using for download and 250 kilobits for upload. And then this one is 100 ms is the latency. That's what we actually set here. So now all we need to do is go to Google and say 750 kilobits to bytes. And the reason I'm doing bytes is actually if you look at, let's see, if we go back to our emulate network, it's actually documented here that we need to use bytes. Okay, so that's why I'm converting kilobits to bytes. And 750 kilobits in bytes is this number, so we're just gonna put that in here, and then the other one for the upload is 250, so we'll just copy this one. We're gonna put this here. We'll actually time, we're gonna time the page load for Fox, both on regular network and once we simulate this 3G network. So let's go ahead and actually write that code to time how long the website takes to load. So we're gonna say start time for this one, and then we're gonna do print, just to start minus, oh sorry, print time minus start, and we'll just convert this to an int, and then we'll do the same thing down here. So we should see the difference if simulating slower network condition made any difference here. So let's go ahead and run this and see if this works. So browser popped up here. Okay, so we actually got an exception. So I did forget to do one thing. To initialize the DevTools protocol, you actually have to call a tab start. Otherwise it will not work. So let's try this again. Okay, so this one loaded faster, a little bit less than a second. So while with the 3G it took a little bit over a second. So not much of a difference, but we could make it a bit slower actually if you want to see a difference. So let's try like lowering it a little bit. So this is not a 3G anymore. This is, I guess, like 2G at this point. Let's see how long that takes. Again, less than a second to load initially, and then 2 seconds. And it's actually still loading, so it's not exactly 2 seconds. There's some requests did not finish. It was more like 6 seconds, I think. But anyway, so that's how you simulate the network condition. Now, another thing we want to do, or that I wanted to show you guys, is how you can bind network events, so you can essentially see network traffic without using a proxy or something like that. So for this, we're gonna use, we're gonna reference our tab, and we're gonna say set listener. So set listener, so the event for this one is, if we go back to our docs here for network, so now we actually need to set an event, right? Or bind the listener to an event. So this is where events comes in. So for this one, we're gonna use request will be sent, I believe. So this is the one. Okay. Request will be sent. So let's go ahead and copy it. And we're gonna bind to it. And then the next argument we need to pass in is actually the function that we want to bind to this event. Okay, so let's go ahead and maybe define function here. So let's do output on start. Oops. Def output on start, and it should take keyword args. And then we'll just print keyword args, and let's just say start. And then we need to do a similar function for another one, end, and this is maybe started, finished. Okay, so down here then if we go, we need to bind one for the start, so output start, and then we need to bind to event when the request is finished. So the very first one will bind this function to an event that has started, meaning a request got kicked off in the browser, and the second one, which is going to be, let's see, response received. Okay, this one is going to bind a function to get triggered when the request actually finishes. So we need to change the function here, and notice that I'm actually using a function object and not executing the function, right? I don't have parentheses at the end. This is important because you don't want to run the function here. You just want to pass the function object to the listener. So I think now we can just run this, and we'll also, in addition to the timings, we'll also see a bunch of requests going out when we fetch Fox. Okay, I forgot to do one other thing. Sorry, guys. So, in order for the network, in order to bind listeners, we actually need to enable network. So what I'm gonna say here is network enable, and we don't need to say anything else. But I would recommend actually to set timeout for this one. Because if you don't set timeout, it can hang. Like if something is wrong on the page, this can hang for a long time. So we'll set timeout for 20 seconds. So in case of 20 seconds, this does not go through, it will just throw an exception. So let's go ahead and run this. Whoops, this should be call method. Fail. Okay. This code will be available on GitHub as well, so you guys can just download it, and all the links are going to be in the description as well. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to close this down, and we see all the requests that were made while the site was loading is actually right here, and it does have the headers. Let's find it. Where is this stuff? Maybe let's just get one that finished and go to JSON formatter. So this is what the keyword args look like that you get in that function, and you can do whatever you want with this keyword arg. This is just a JSON, and as you can see, there's headers for whatever that was requested for this specific asset, this specific JavaScript. There's timings for this as well, so this is exactly what you see in the network tab for Chrome. I think it shows it here, and then your headers and whatever other info. So that's basically how you use how you can use the DevTools to control the network and to see all the network events. In a similar manner, you can actually use all these other domains. So they call this domains, right? Network domain, emulation domain, debugger, browser domain. So all of them have some sort of methods. Again, I don't know what types are. If you guys know what types are, let me know how to use this and if this can be used with PyChrome. Also, PyChrome can be downloaded from PyPy. Again, the link will be in the description. I've been using this library to do network monitoring for a while, and it's been working pretty well for me. So I thought I'd share it with you guys. And again, all these domains can be used in a similar manner. All you need to do is for, let's say if you go into input and we want to use some sort of method from here, all we need to do is just replace the method in the code where we say call method. Maybe some caveats will apply for each one of them, but do read the docs and you should be able to figure it out. So anyway, guys, if this video was helpful, make sure to like it, subscribe, and share. And as always, have a good one. Take care.